This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome back to Talmud Devorah. We're actually closing in on finishing the Sefer, so that's very exciting. We'll have to discuss the new program for the upcoming Zman. Just one thought of that we learned from Talmud Devorah that was relevant to Sukkot. I actually gave as a little clip, but it's actually quite of note that the Talmud Devorah brought in Parak Tes on page Ayin that a benefit and a way of acquiring Midas HaMalchus is to go into exile l'shem Shamayim, and by doing so you become the Merkava to the Shechina. And the Talmud Devorah suggested going into Golus without one's possessions and one's belongings, just like the Shechina. But so to speak, we wanted to suggest that the function of the sukkah is, we always think the sukkah represents the Ananei HaKavod and the Hashras Hashchina, but it could be, as the Torah says, that one of the kavanos of going into the sukkah is to go into Golus, lest the person may have been chayiv Golus for killing b'shoigeg, so going into the sukkah is fulfilling the chiyuv of going to Golus b'shoigeg. So, but aside from that, because how likely is it that a person's really chayiv to go into Golus? How many people killed others b'shoigeg? Even though Rav Aaron Koller used to say that why do Rosh Yeshivas have to go fundraising? Because during Shiur somebody may have asked a ridiculous question, and the Rabbi may have dismissed the question, and you embarrass the questioner, and embarrassing someone barabim is like ritzicha, so you accidentally killed someone, so Rosh Yeshiva have to go fundraising, so that's their way of going into Galus. So, you never know, somebody may have embarrassed somebody b'shoigeg. But perhaps we could suggest that the Talmud Devorah says that by going into Golus, one becomes the Merkava to the Shechina. So since Sukkot is a time of the year that God rests His Shechina upon us, so instead of thinking that Hashem is resting His Shechina on our Sukkah, one perhaps by sitting in the Sukkah and going into Golus, God is actually resting His Shechina on us. But let us continue on page Ayin Beis. The Talmud Devorah says that a person should be careful to do that which would ensure that the Shechina would be clinging to him and not separate from him. Now the Talmud Devorah says that before a person gets married, the Shechina is not with the person at all, because the Iker Shechina comes mitzad the nekeva. And in that case, the person is standing between two nekevas. You have the lower nekeva, one's wife, to which one gives she'er ksus and oina. One is mekayem, the Indian of feeding, clothing, and the marital obligations. And the Shechina stands above him to grant a person all of a person's needs, so then he could then grant it to his wife. So the Indian that all of a person's bracha is in the merit of his wife, the idea being that the Shechina gives the person what he needs to be able to then give it to his wife. So a person is then situated between the two nekevos, between God, the Shechina, and between his Isha. And that is emulation of the fact that Tiferes, which is the Zachar, is situated between the two nekevos, which is the Ima Ilah, which is Bina, and the Ima Tata, and the Ima Tata is Malchus. And the Ima Ilah gives to Tiferes, and Tiferes then gives to Malchus. And what would the analogy of Sher Ksus and Oina be? Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. But the Shechina will not come to a person unless you emulate basically the pattern on high. Namely, the same way on high it's Bina, Tiferes, Malchus, so too the Shechina will come to a person provided that he's together with his wife, that he's married. Now, the Talmud Devorah says, and I think this is where we're up to, there may be one of three reasons that a person separates from his wife. Ha'alef, number one, liyosanida, let's say she's prohibited. Beis shu oisek b'Torah b'aydu mena kol yimei achol. that a person is engaged in learning and he separates from his wife during the weekdays. This we actually read, but the Noda B'Yehuda writes that he sort of left his wife abandoned during the week and was in the Beis HaMedrash during the week. So either in a situation where a person's wife is a nida, or in a situation where a person is involved in learning, or in a situation where someone is on the road, when someone is on the road, he guards himself from sin. So at this time, at this time the Shechina is clinging and tied to him, and does not allow him, so that a person is not abandoned and estranged. But rather, Hashem wants a person to be male and female. So how does a person be male and female on the road when his wife's a nida, or when he's learning, or when he's on the road? The answer is that at those moments the Shechina clings to the person, so the person could be an Adam HaShalem, namely Zachar Nekeva. The Shechina pairs up with him, and therefore you need to be careful that the Shechina does not depart from you. When you go out on the road, so that you could be energetic and profitable, l'spalo tfilas hadarach, to say the tefillah of a traveler, v'lechaz b'Torah, and to grab a hold of Torah. In other words, when a person's on the road, he's basically in danger, and the danger is the Shechina, the Nekeva is not with you, your wife is not with you. So you want to make sure the Shechina is with you. So how do you make sure the Shechina is with you? Number one, tfilas hadarach, and number two, learning Torah. So how do you learn Torah on the road? So either if you're fortunate enough not to be the one driving, you could learn, or if you're driving, there's something called TorahAnytime.com, and if you want to know which shiurim to listen to, then you could speak to me privately. I could suggest a few. Or you don't have, or you could listen to Torah tapes or CDs or whoever you want to listen to. Anyway, that for this cause, the Shechina, which is guarding you, will be with you, will stand by you. Since you're involved in and engaged in learning Torah, the Shechina is also standing with you, in that you are careful from sin, and you're involved in learning Torah. So in other words, when you're on the road, so you're in danger of being an ish without an isha. Now you're not an Adam HaShalem. So you should be careful in tfilas hadarach, and to be oiches in the Torah, and that's a shmira. And therefore the Shechina, which is a shmiras hadarach, will stand by you. B'yoisei oisek b'Torah, okay. V'chein b'yoisei ishtay nida, when one's wife is a nida, Shechina imedaslai, the Shechina stands by you, k'sheshomer hanida karoi, when you guard the rules of nida properly. Achar kach, and afterwards, belel taharasa, when one's wife purifies herself, oy belel Shabbos, or Friday night, oy bevoy ben aderech, or when one comes back from a travel. Since all these three instances are instances of oina de oiraisa, kol echad mehen zman beilas mitzvahi, all of these times are times of relation, which is mitzvah, ushchina niftachas, so now you're back together with the nekeva. So what happens to the Shechina during this time? So the Talmud Devorah says, "Ushchina niftachas lamal." Shechina above opens itself, lekabel neshamas kadoshas, to receive holy souls. Gam ishtoi roi lifgodoisa. So in that sense, if the Shechina, the Isha Lamala, is sort of open to be Makabel the Neshamas, that is the opportune time for one to visit one's wife. Uvazeh Shechina Tamid Imai. This way the Shechina is always with you. When your wife is muteres, then it's clear. When your wife is not, one should ensure he says the Tfilas Haderech and is involved in learning Torah. V'zeh Shechina Tamid Imai, Kain Parsha B'Zayar, Parshas Bereshis. So does the Zayar say in this week's Parsha. By the way, this week's Parsha is Parshas Bereshis. Hapkida le'ishtoi tzarch shetia davka b'zman she'hashchina b'mekayma. Now, marital relations should take place only when the Shechina is in her place, that is between two arms. Dahainu kishehi bein shtei zroyos. When the Shechina is between the two arms are Chesed and Gevurah. We'll have to see what this means. But at a time of Tsaras Hatzibur, Amnam Bizman Tsaras Hatzibur, She'ena Shechina bein shtei zroyos, that the Shechina is not between two arms, Asur, it is prohibited. V'chein Pershu Batikunim Parshas Bereshis. So the Zayar says in this week's Parsha that when Chesed and Gevurah are, so to speak, not together because the Tzibur is B'tzara, so then Tashma Shamita is prohibited. Okay, perhaps we'll add more to this tomorrow, but at least we got right back into things, and Be'ezus Hashem, we will continue tomorrow. Okay, Rabbi Sai, have a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.